As a musician, was he very sort of directive, or did he sort of encourage what was there already?
Yeah, he really encouraged what was there already.
Yeah.
And he used to say, well, in French, nous avons les atomes crochus, which means our atoms are connected. And I was a child, and I was just so overwhelmed by this. But there was something in that we did think along the same wavelength, because he wouldn't have picked me otherwise.
Yeah.
And so it was easy for me to fall into what he wanted for me. And, you know, and then we just became friends.
He's also a real charmer in life.
Oh, he was lovely. He was lovely, and he was, everything good you've ever heard about Arthur Rubinstein is true. And he was one of the most generous, kind people I ever met. Just wonderful. And I used to spend summers with him in Spain, and he would just turn up at concerts of mine. I'd walk out on stage at the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. There he was in the front row with his head down like this, so that I wouldn't, you know, see him. But of course, everybody saw that white hair, and everybody in the audience was looking at him and not at me. So, you know, but he never made me actually nervous. It didn't make me nervous to have him there. He was never, because I knew that he understood.
Yeah.
And so it was okay.
I associate you most particularly with the music of Chopin, Liszt, and Mozart, and you'll be playing two of these composers here at the festival. When did it become clear that this is the core repertory that you wanted to choose? I mean, not to the exclusion of other music by any means, but this is a core.
I think the Chopin thing was from the beginning, from the very beginning. I think when your name ends with SKA or SKI, you hardly have a choice, really. But I think it's...
It could have been Szymanowski.
Well, as you know. In fact, I've championed not only Szymanowski, but Panufnik and Ludoslavsky and all those people. But anyway... well, with Chopin, I firmly believe that, yes, okay, I won't go out on the limb and say he's the greatest composer in the world, because he isn't. There are others equally great. But I will go out and say that he was the man who understood the keyboard perhaps better than any other. Liszt and Ravel being in there as well. But Chopin, I love his music. I understand I feel that I understand his music. And how can you not love Mozart?
Yeah.
He's the best. So, and Liszt,
end of subject.
You know, Liszt, I just love the man.
Yes.
So, and his music, when I was playing a lot of Liszt, there were not many women playing it, and being, in those days, very ambitious.
And there are also not many people, except for Mr. Liszt himself, who gave the premiere of a piano concerto. That's I mean, you must be the second person after Liszt to give the premiere. How come that Janina Fialkowska gave the premiere of the third piano concerto of Franz Liszt?
Coincidence. No, it was because it had been discovered when the wall came down in '89 and all the Eastern European archives opened. There was a young doctoral student from Chicago, from I think Northwestern University, although I can't remember, who found the remaining folios of this unknown Liszt piano concerto that had been lost back in 1831. And so he brought it to the Chicago Symphony, and they had held it in a safe. And I had just recently played with Scholti in the Chicago Symphony, and I had also, on the orchestra series, played an all-Liszt recital with all the transcendental etudes, and they just put Liszt, Janina together, and that's how I got it.
It's a good gig.
Yeah, good gig. Yeah.
2001 was a significant year for you. That's when you married Harry Oesterle.
Yeah.
Harry's here today, I'm happy to say. So welcome,
the man with
Harry.
the beard.
Welcome back to Paris Sound. How did that make you feel?
Oh,
Is that a leading question or
that's
what?
That's a very leading question. I put that above anything that happened in my life as the best, by far the best thing. And I mean that over anything musical, anything. You know, I was a certain age, and I was used to being alone on tour and being perfectly fine with that. And then along comes Harry, and And now we travel up together. And I'm killing him with it, too. Because it's exhausting, and I had 50 years to get used to it. But now he's pretty good. No, he's had 10 years.
Okay, so that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Then the following year, things took a turn. The drama really began. Take me through the emotional swing that must have followed your discovery of a lump on your left arm.
Well, first of all, think of Harry. He's just married me, and 6 months later, I have a biopsy on a tumor in my left arm, and it's cancer. And I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it was serious. I couldn't believe it was serious. And then, then it starts dawning on you. But then it was an amazing hospital in New York that I went to. I was lucky enough to go to the Sloan Kettering Memorial, where right from the beginning the doctors and the oncologists all got together to try and save as much of the muscle as possible. But they kept telling me that I was going to lose muscle, and I kept not believing it.
Yeah. So then you had that first surgery.
The first surgery in May 2000.
And you sat back at the piano, and what happened?
Well, after the first surgery, when they removed the tumor, this arm was like that. There was nothing. Silver lining in all of it was that the surgery did not affect my fingers. Mm-hmm. So I believed that it was going to be okay in the end. So I would practice every day for a year and a half like that, holding my fingers, so that it was boring. But, I picked some, the Chopin Fourth Ballade, the Coda, there's a great, left-hand passage. Yes. And then I thought there's all these piano concertos written for one hand, mm-hmm. the wrong hand, but why shouldn't I play it with the right hand? And that worked. And my friends in the orchestras, a lot of orchestras hired me to do it. So I didn't completely abandon my concert career during those 2 years.
No, I remember one concert quite well when you were playing a concerto. I think it was Ravel.
Ravel left-handed.
In London.
That was Prokofiev.
Prokofiev.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did the Ravel in Calgary and elsewhere, and Houston and various places.
All right, so here we are then, a one-armed pianist on the stage. Yep. What was the next stage? How did you transform yourself?
Well, I had this experimental surgery coming up that had never been done in North America before, and the surgeon had never done it before, although he had neglected to tell me that, but I'm very glad he didn't. And he had seen it done in Switzerland. Oh. Anyway, that happened about 7 months after the initial surgery, much quicker than they thought, because my arm healed so quickly after the first one. And then I had to sort of wait for 5 months and see what happened. I wasn't allowed to move my arm for several months, and then only passive motion. So that was perhaps the hardest time. Yeah. Although we kept busy, Harry and I. We, suddenly I realized that, hey, I live in Connecticut and I live near New York. And, as a student, of course, I did everything in New York. But as a concert pianist, you never had time to do. So we were going to art galleries. We went to the opera all the time. We went to concerts. And we actually had a very good time.
Was your arm in a sling, or was it in a cast?
For the first 8 weeks, it was in a sling, and I was under sort of pain of death not to move it at all. And then it sort of hung a bit, but I was still not allowed to move it, but I had physiotherapy. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly in May, when I was told that now I could start, I was lying on the floor, and I shouted up to Harry, who was working upstairs, and I actually could lift it sort of like that. And that was it. And then I went to the keyboard, and I saw that I could play this far with it, this much lateral motion. And I thought, great, I can play Mozart. And then a few days later, I went a little bit further, and I thought, okay, life's good again. I can play Chopin. Wow. And it went a little bit further, but I've, of course, had to change things.